So I am gonna go with what I think is a band that you'll probably absolutely hate.
Let's
Is
go.
the Vandals, Hitler Bad, Vandals Good from 1998.
You
My
are correct,
favorite
sir.
Vandals album. I knew. I think you might have said that, but I would have guessed it that you would not really just click with the Vandals.
I'll be honest, dude. I heard them like twice, hated them both times, and never revisited it. So I honestly couldn't even tell you what they sound like.
Oh, okay.
I haven't.
It's
I just was like, all my friends liked them. They were like, "This band's so punk rock," and I was like, "All right." I didn't know why they thought that, but I had no reason to not believe them. So I listened to it and was just like, "I don't get it." And I don't even know that they're not punk rock. I just don't. I don't, dude. I don't know.
they deserve way more credit. Like so, not like I totally subscribe to the theory of like the the pop punk generational thing where it like starts with the Ramones, that the Descendants pick that up, and then Blink picks that up, and so on and so forth from there. I think that's pretty accepted history, and it makes sense. The
Okay,
band that doesn't get enough credit though in that equation, along with the Descendants, is also the Vandals. The
I
Vandals
would
are the
agree with that.
other band that kind of created. 'Cause I think the Descendants, they're both from the legit punk scene. Like, and they both like the Descendants kind of started out as a pop punk band, just in like, but tour, sharing a drummer with Black Flag. Whereas the
Yeah.
Vandals' first album, it's on Epitaph, like before Epitaph was Epitaph. Like
Right.
and it's a straight up punk album. Their older lineups though changed, but they were still kind of in that scene because they were still in that scene. But they were one of the early bands to really merge comedy, juvenile humor, and pop punk
That's
together. They don't get
that's what
enough
I
credit
didn't
for
like
that.
about them.
And I think it comes off more natural when the Descendants do it. Whereas we talked about this a little bit with Blink, because Blink kind of does both. When you love him or hate him with the Descendants, you believe Milo's a freaking nerd, right? Milo
Yes.
literally did go to college. Like Milo is that guy. Even though he doesn't write a lot of the lyrics, Bill Stevenson does. Like Milo is a perfect avatar for that. Whereas I think the Vandals have a little bit more of what Blink 182 guy does, is where they're trying to be funny, and intentional comedy can only take you so far. So I think it gets a little bit redundant sometimes with the Vandals, even though just like NoFX, I generally find them funny. NoFX is the other band, I guess, that gets the credit for the comedy, but there's a lot of comedy in punk rock, which I get the feeling you don't like as much. I've
Not
noticed
really
that.
my thing,
Yeah.
man. Uh off topic for 1 second. I just rest up Milo, man. I hope he's doing okay. I know he had like a
Yes.
minor heart attack recently. So
Yeah, almost back to playing
Milo,
shows, I think. Yeah.
that guy's out of his mind doing that. But yeah, dude. So like I think my main issue with the Vandals was that when I first saw their album, like I didn't go to shows a lot when I was 15. I wasn't allowed to yet. I was about 16 when I really started going. I went to one at like 14 and 15, but it was like a show. And so from age like 15 to 17, there was very few shows. I was mostly buying records and trying to learn the bands. And then when I
Mhm.
got a little money, I was starting going to shows. The Vandals had a name, the Vandals. I was like, this name is awesome. And then I bought the record, was like, what is this bullshit, dude? Like, this
Throws
is
you off, huh?
garbage.
Yeah.
Dude, I hated it. Still to this day, I have friends that just they ride or die for the Vandals, bro, and I just don't get it. I'm not even gonna say that they're bad because I don't know what they sound like right off the top of my head.
Mhm.
I know that I was very disappointed when I heard them, and I never really went back. So
It just didn't hit you. Like
not
it
at
didn't
all.
catch you at the right
A lot of
moment,
bands
right?
though, dude. A lot of bands
Yeah.
like that back in the '90s, especially because back then you got an album, you had to love that record, man. So when
Mhm.
I heard a band, I needed to love that band. And so like now I'm more open to listening to different music than I was back then. Back then I was like, man, that's $17, bro. I can't waste it on a Vandal CD
Well,
when there might be a Rancid demo something somewhere. There might be a new NoFX record coming, and I had to buy that.
that's why the tribal lines still kind of make sense to people like you and I, because it was also like a financial decision. Like
Yeah.
it's just the normal part. So you're gonna invest. Like now I can consider myself a fan of everything because I have everything right at my fingertips. This record though, I don't know if you ever saw the well, because the Vandals obviously are very important to that, but also Kung Fu Records wouldn't exist obviously without the Vandals.
Okay.
The Vandals and the Ataris actually. The
I
part of
was
the
gonna say
reason.
the Ataris and the Alkaline Trio. Wait, that's Asian Man.
No, yeah, it's Asian Man. Very similar though. So to me, those are the two. Those are like the two underground pop punk labels of that time period. Kind of after Lookout declines, it's like those
Yeah,
two labels kind of
I agree with
fill the
that.
void. And there's a band. They've got a great name. Actually, a really fun pop punk band. That Joe Escalante signed, and then he saw the Ataris and put them out, and they're like, because they were still on the Vandals were still, I believe, on Nitro at the time. Uh,
Okay.
and so and it wasn't until like this album. Let's see what label this is on because I got it pulled up. It is on Nitro. Yeah, so they were signed to Nitro until 2000. They started putting their records on Kung Fu. Kind of similar to No
Okay.
Effects, but Kung Fu didn't do much. So this is right in the heart of their Nitro era. And if you've ever seen the Show Must Go Off DVD sets, which there's the Alkaline Trio, the famous one, the Alkaline Trio,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I
yeah,
always
yeah.
reference.
Dude, One Man Army had one of those.
One Man Army, Bouncing Souls,
Dude, I'm
Mess,
buying that right now. Hold on.
Tsunami
Keep
Bomb.
talking.
Yeah.
Bro.
Um, but of course, I think I don't say the best. I think the most infamous one, and hint on a stream this year around Halloween time, we're totally going to watch the Alkaline Trio DVD. But on top of that, the one that they put the most effort into is the one they put out themselves, of course, that the Vandals put out. And there's so many cool features on the it's many of these songs why I mentioned it because these songs are kind of the heart of that. And I found a lot of these songs through that DVD and then went back and this is the album that they came from. And I like those versions and I really like these versions, but they're better live perfected probably. But that thing, it's got a Josh Freeze cam on that DVD. You can just isolate
Nice.
Josh Freeze and just watch him play drums. I
That's
love
pretty dope.
with those. Okay, these are concert DVDs, and shout out to Kung Fu concert DVDs that have commentary on them. Like this is
Yeah,
pre
that's
YouTube.
crazy.
So the Alkaline Trio one, you can watch the regular version, and then you watch the one with Dan and I can't think of the drummer that just left. I feel so stupid. Derek.
Yeah.
Dan and
Oh,
Derek.
Alkaline Trio. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah,
they do
there.
commentary over their own set. The Mess
That's
guys do
pretty dope.
commentary over their own set, and the Vandals, their Vandals do have a pretty good sense of humor, especially like early 2000s style humor, doing that over their own songs, and I love that presentation of it. It's kind of this putting this album on there was my excuse to kind of talk about that, but a lot of those songs do originate from here. I would suggest, I mean, all of them. Cafe 405, People Are Going to Hell. My Girlfriend's Dead is probably like their hit if it can be considered. It's a song they got a video with. It's usually the song they close out their set with.
Okay.
Um, pretty straightforward poppy song. Not one of my favorites, but it's the one that caught on. I Got an Ape Shape. These are all great, but Too Much Drama is one that really sticks out for. There's another one I'll mention, but Too Much Drama. It's a story about like a divorced kid, and it's kind of over dramatizing because it's called Too Much Drama because he learns how to be a kid from the people he sees on TV. And it
Okay.
mentions, but like you'll probably get it because you're a little bit closer in age. There's a lot of those like 1970s TV shows,
Okay.
all of this thing, and it makes all these references, and it's pretty good. And then another song you will probably appreciate that I forgot was on this album is "Idea for a Movie," and it's a corny love song, but it's a whole narrative of him writing a song about being in a movie that he's scripting himself in. And but just
I
in the whole
love stuff
narrative of
like
it,
that though.
it's like a funny song to get lost into, and I love this. I love the Vandals, as you can tell. I don't talk about them enough myself.
You don't talk about them very
Kind
often.
of
I'm a
like
little surprised
kind
you
of
like
like
them
you
this
are with
much.
One Man Army. Actually, it's kind of similar to One Man Army, where I feel
Okay.
like they kind of only exist for me, even though that's not true because I would say like the Vandals have a much higher status than like One Man Army. But
Yeah. Yeah.
even within the stuff that I kind of traffic in, you think the Vandals would be kind of bigger, and I think because they've been pretty inactive since like 2000. They've released like 2 albums. They'll tour every
Okay.
couple of years. The Joe Escalante is literally like an entertainment lawyer along with running Kung
Is he
Fu and everything
really?
else. Yeah.
That's
So they
kind of
have
cool though.
like he does a podcast. He talks about punk rock every now and then, but he talks about just like entertainment news, but talks about
What?
it. But talk about it
I'm kind of interested in that
from
actually.
the knowledge level though of a lawyer and someone who got to a fairly the Vandals running Kung Fu Records, fairly high level of entertainment, not a big
Right?
celebrity, but it was in the game. I'm looking at it right now. I have That Darn Punk, which I
Yeah,
forgot when they
I need to pull this up on my screen so I don't look like a dickhead looking at my phone. I'm listening to you, but I'm like trying to find something to tell you.
they
I'm looking for something.
they put out narrative DVDs on Kung Fu of like there's like a storyline on this thing. It's called
Okay.
That Darn Punk. It's a piece of shit. It's one of the worst movies you ever see. Totally need to do a review on it. There's a lot of stuff. Kung Fu put out a lot of extra stuff, and even in this era when the Vandals weren't on Kung Fu, there was a lot of Kung Fu related stuff that the Vandals put out because they were able to put that out. Nitro to Kung Fu wasn't exactly like they were locked into an Atlantic Records contract or something that they couldn't
Dude,
release stuff.
I just had this like weird, sometimes you'll be talking about something and it'll click a memory.
Uh-huh.
I just had one unlock and I'm so pissed off right now because it's a album that came out in 1998 and I just didn't realize it was that year, and that's what I was looking for. It's like, did that really come out in 98? And I just checked. Okay, so what happened is we started talking about the Vandals. that we did like the live show DVD thing, and I was like, oh yeah, they did a One Man Army one too. So I went to eBay real quick to go buy one, and a guy had a copy of Mest and One Man Army both unopened, and it was like $4 for the pair. So I bought that, and then I bought the Alkaline Trio one. You want the Mest DVD? I'll send it to you.
I've got it.
You got it? I'll just watch
I
it.
bought it like a year ago. I rebought it.
That's what's up, dude. I'm telling you. And I bought the Alkaline Trio one, and then when I was doing that, I was like, wait, did Murder City Devils do one on the same thing? No, but they did do a DVD. And then I'm thinking about Murder City Devils, and I was like, wait a minute. They put out albums in the 90s, and I was like, you got to be kidding me, dude. Empty Bottles, Broken Hearts was not 98. I pulled it up. Sure enough, it was 1998. So that one will be one that I mentioned in a minute. But yeah, dude. Crazy, man. But
I'm glad you're talking about those. I love those DVDs. I have bought all of them several times.
I haven't thought about them in a long time. I'm glad we brought it up so I can watch them.
They're just a good and honestly, like I wish I could. My DVD player that I have, which doesn't even really work on it, doesn't hook up well to my speakers, and I wish it did because they don't sound so good now. They're recorded really well. I just think it's the output. I don't have the correct output.
I have surround sound in here that cranks, dude. So I'm gonna be able to.
There's some funny stuff you can do too with like the cat. Like they were making DVDs for like the art of DVDs. Like there's some on the Alkaline Trio one where you can switch camera angles, like your own switching of it, which is just
okay.
People like us who, and again, there's a Josh Free. Like if you're into
I love
drums,
stuff like that.
Watch a whole set, but just watch Josh Freeze play the whole set. Like that's insane. But I don't know, like the best drummer in punk history. There you go. He's there. You got a whole lesson for him.
Wait, the best drummer in punk history is who?
I'm gonna say Josh Freeze.
Really?
I think he could definitely be on the podium. It's him. It's Travis. We did this on my stream when we came up with a definitive top 3, and I can't remember who the third one was.
Dude, I would put Brandon up there based on what I've been hearing off of Tomorrow Never Comes. That guy's amazing.
Probably just doesn't have the resume within punk rock though.
I was just thinking as I said it, I was like, yeah, but he hasn't been in that band long enough. Like,
which I think people probably discredit Josh Freeze, even though like I think it's kind of conventional wisdom, but he's also people consider him the drummer of. They say he's the drummer of Perfect Circle. I'm like, or these other things. I'm like, no, he's or Foo Fighters. Right now, he's the Foo Fighters drummer.
I wouldn't even put Travis in there, bro. He's not even a punk rock drummer. Reason.
Yeah,
but you know.
It makes it more difficult. I want to say Derek Plord was the one that came up. He passed away. He was the original drummer of the Ataris and the drummer of Lagwagon, actually, and a lot of other stuff. Passed away in like 2003, and that's
really?
on our stream. We got into that conversation of like because he was like the reason why he worked with the Ataris. He wasn't really a member. He was just a guy that the Vandals actually just like because he was a badass drummer. Like, hey, go tour with this band. We got this singer that we kind of like his songwriting, and
that's crazy.
He was such a good drummer that he was a hired gun in that way, but he had a lot of personal issues, unfortunately, and I believe he overdosed or suicide.
Jesus.
Speaking of that whole universe, the guitarist for Lagwagon also had a heart attack, like a couple weeks ago. Yeah, he's in Lagwagon versus the World. The big dude. He's in a lot of bands that in that same orbit, and shout out to the old punk rockers, man. So let's
dude, for real.
Ourselves, guys. Like we're talking about albums that are 20 years old, and a lot of these were mid albums, so we're getting up there, guys. Take care of yourselves,
dude, for real. Man, so my apologies. I was listening to you the whole time. I had to get that stupid thing figured out on my phone, and now I just got an alert to my bank account's overdrawn. So I'm like, oh, come on.
Just because you're buying like DVDs frivolously, that's no reason for
probably is it
overdrawn.
I've got the money. It's just not in my checking account right now, but it is what it is. Yeah, Vandals is a band that I'll have to go back and listen to a little bit and just rediscover. Maybe I'll like them a little bit more. But I really did have a problem with their
the humor,
the name and their name and presentation didn't match up with their music very well, in my opinion.
They also look like the nerdiest guys to play punk rock too. Like all of them just look like, and not even, again, Milo can make that as sort of a gimmick, even though I believe it with Milo as well. With the Vandals, it was more like,
that's kind of,
they're straight up dorky guys in a way.
It was like a really big disappointment, I guess is the right word.
Yeah, I get that.
Well, let's move on to the next band on my list, because after this we'll talk. I'm going to give a couple of honorable mentions, and then we'll talk about our top 2 because they are the same, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So before we had the Street Dogs, the singer Mike McLogan was in the Dropkick Murphys.